The measures that we have announced today may be reviewed at any time, and the Ministry of Health can administer ad hoc measures, including arrival testing based on prevailing pandemic situations and epidemiologic situation of the country of departure. Finally, as I conclude, I want to take this opportunity in a special way to thank our healthcare workers across the country for the selfless commitment and dedication that they have continued to show during those 2 years of this pandemic, and urge them to continue practicing the same. I also take this opportunity to appeal to our fellow Kenyans who have not been vaccinated to get vaccinated. I cannot belabor on the benefits of vaccination, but I want to appeal to you to consider the people whom you love and who surround you at all times, and whether indeed it is worth putting their lives at stake. We have enough doses of vaccines for all eligible Kenyans. I thank you. Kwa ufupi, tumesema ya kwamba kutoka leo hii kuvaa barakoa, amri ya kuvaa barakoa nje wakati watu wanatembea kwa mitaani ama wakati wako nje si lazima. Kutoka leo tumesema unaweza tembea bila barakoa ukiwa nje ya kule unafanyia kazi ama uwe nje ya nyumba. Tumesema ya kwamba Interfaith Council ama ile chama tuliunda ya kushughulika na mambo ya makanisa na mosques, tumewauliza pia washughulike na mambo ya kutoa masharti ambayo itatumika katika makanisa, lakini tumesema kutoka leo hii watu wanaweza kurudi makanisani na mosques vile walikuwa hapo mbeleni, ijapokuwa ni lazima pia tuendelee na kufanya chanjo. Kwa hivyo wale ambao wamechanjwa ndio wanaweza kuendelea bila shida zozote. Vile vile tumesema ya kwamba wageni wetu wale wanatoka nchi za Ulaya na kwingineko, watu ambaye wamechanjwa kutoka leo si lazima wawe wamefanywa test ya PCR ama test zingine zozote, wako huru kutembea, ijapokuwa ya kwamba wakati wanatembea vile vile ni lazima washughulike na kuelewa masharti ambayo imetolewa na nchi hizo zingine. Wale ambao wanatoka nchi zetu za Kenya kutembea Ulaya ni lazima washughulike, wajue nchi zile wanaenda ile masharti pia iko huko katika hizo nchi zingine. Lakini kwa sisi wa Kenya tunawasihi watu wachanjwe, ndio hii practice ile sasa tumeanza ya kutoa kila siku tunatoa sharti moja alafu ingine kesho, itawezekana watu wakiwa wanaendelea kuchanjwa. Kwa hivyo sisi tunafurahia ile kazi inaendelea kufanywa na wafanyikazi wa Wizara ya Afya na wale wengine ambao wanatusaidia sana sana gao, hata mahospitali na kwingineko. Tumesema ya kwamba ukiwa pengine unatembea kama iko pahali kama ni hospitali, ni lazima pia utumie barakoa, lakini ukiwa nje si lazima uvae barakoa. Lakini sio kusema ati ukivaa barakoa ni shida. Wewe ukitaka kuvaa barakoa wakati wowote, hiyo ndio hata mzuri zaidi kuliko wao wengine. Lakini ni vile tu tunasema hatutaki mwananchi asubuliwe na polisi ama wengine ukiwa huna barakoa, ukiwa unatembea nje ama kwingineko. Na hayo machache nimesema asanti, and then we can take a few questions which I'm sure exists.
Any questions?
Yes, there is a question over there.
Okay, my name is Gentrick Sadwar.
Say that again.
Gentrick Sadwar from Radio Citizen. Niko na maswali matatu. Masharti haya yanalegezwa wakati ambapo tumeona juhudi za kujenga kiwanda cha kutengeneza chanjo humu nchini. Je, ugonjwa huu unaelekea kutokomea au kuna hofu kwamba utarejea tena? Hilo ni la kwanza. Then bado kuna mataifa ambayo yanaendelea na kuchanja watu na yameweza kutoa chanjo kuliko hata Kenya. Ni nini ambacho kimesababisha masharti haya kulegezwa hapa nchini? Then swali la tatu, bila shaka ni afueni kwa wengi, lakini je, serikali imeweka mikakati ipi kuhakikisha kwamba baada ya masharti haya kulegezwa ugonjwa huu sasa hautasambazwa kwa haraka? Ni hayo tu.
Okay. Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Sarah from the SABC. You're the first African country to relax your health protocols this far. Did you consult the World Health Organization? Did you have consultations with the Africa CDC? And are you putting in place measures to ensure if you notice that the positivity rate is going up, then you can quickly reverse these directives?
Okay. Final one.
My name is Georgina from K24. I have one question. As from yesterday, we saw from the daily report that more than 1 million teenagers between 15 and 17 years have been vaccinated. Maybe we can elaborate how this vaccination is happening, because I think a month ago we saw a parent complaining that her daughter was vaccinated without her consent. And maybe if the vaccination is happening in schools, maybe the criteria that is used and maybe the schools that have done that up to now. Thank you.
Okay, asante sana. Ile ya kwanza ilikuwa mambo ya kulegezwa kwa masharti ambayo tumeweka na vile na ni sababu gani, na nafikiri hiyo maneno yote nilikuwa nimeeleza, kwa sababu ukiangalia ile positivity rate ambayo tunayo kwa mwezi mzima sasa tangu Februari 10, positivity rate imekuwa chini ya 1%, na hiyo ni dogo sana, kwa sababu World Health Organization wanasema ya kwamba ukiwa chini ya 5% kwa siku 14, sasa we uko sawa kidogo. Sisi tuko below 1% kwa mwezi mzima. Kwa hivyo tuko na confidence ya kwamba ile tumefanya dio ya maana. Vile vile pendo letu sio kuwanyanyasa wananchi, na masharti ambayo tumeweka tu kwa ndio iwe hapo, ndio kuwe, sababu tuseme nchi iko na hii masharti ya kuweka barakoa. Hiyo sio kitu ya maana. Kitu ya maana ni vile ni lazima tuokoe maisha ya watu, na kwa sababu hiyo ndio ile kitu muhimu. Tukiona ya kwamba si lazima watu waweke mabarakoa ndio hiyo ifanyike, tunaweza kuzitoa hiyo masharti. Vile vile siwezi kukueleza leo hii niseme ya kwamba hakuna ati haitarudi tena. Siwezi kukueleza ati niseme ati mwezi wa Mei ama June hatutaregea tena kuanza kuweka barakoa kila pahali. Hiyo ni mambo ya kesho. Maombi yetu ni tusifike hapo, na njia ya sisi kuzuia kufika hapo ni mambo ya kuchanjwa. Kwa hivyo sijui kama maswali yako yote nimerudisha, lakini ikiwa iko moja ambayo nimesahau, pengine utasema. On the issue of Sarah, and we are the first country to relax these measures. As a matter of fact, a few countries have relaxed measures. South Africa, for example, has relaxed a few measures, not to the extent that we have. But throughout the management of COVID-19 in this country, we have made decisions on the basis of our own science and our own observation of the evidence that we have across the country. And I think that the evidence we have currently is that it is possible for us to take the kind of measures that we have. And I think that to combine your question, and I think another question that was the Swahili question as well, is what measures have we taken to ensure that if the disease burden, if an outbreak comes again, then we are ready. Well, as you know, we have been preparing for this for a while. I think if you look at the infrastructure, the epidemic infrastructure in the country, including the number of ICU beds, the number of isolation beds that we can muster, the number of hospital beds that we have in the country at the moment is such that we are fairly confident that we can be able to deal with an upsurge if it comes. Our prayer, of course, is that this does not happen. And as I keep repeating, the way it is not going to happen is to make sure as many of our people as possible are vaccinated. We obviously keep in constant touch with the World Health Organization, with the CDC, and as I was saying, in consultation. What we are talking about is things that we have done in consultation. The measures that we are announcing are in consultation with those institutions. We must understand that we don't live in isolation. We live in a global community. And when you look at the rest of the world, you can see also there are similar measures. Country to country are taking different measures depending on their own environment. For instance, there are countries that have now decided that they do not need masks at all in any of their spaces. Now, those countries, I think something like Denmark and Sweden, but those countries have got almost a 100% vaccination rate. So if our vaccination rate were to increase to those extents, then we would take further measures and reduce the mitigating measures that even we have maintained even today. So our hope is that as we move forward and as we increase our own vaccination rate, then further measures can be made. On the issue of Georgina, you're asking about vaccination of teenagers. As you know, I'm going to ask Dr. Amoth to respond to that particular question. But as you know, we have said repeatedly that the age 18 persons are the ones who we have said should be vaccinated. The rest are voluntary. The Pfizer vaccine has been certified for use even to amongst younger people. And there are countries that are vaccinating people as even 5 years old. So it's not abnormal to do so. However, I would take exception if indeed a 5-year-old has been vaccinated without the mother or the father's permission to do so. My only question would be, where was the mother when it was being done?
Thank you. In addition to what Waziri has said, is that vaccination is entirely a voluntary process. And for vaccination of teenagers in school, our cutoff point has been 15 years old, and parents are actually expected to be able to give consent. And that is why you have seen a substantial increase in numbers of children in schools being vaccinated. Other jurisdictions have lowered the age of vaccination to as low as even 5 years, as Waziri has told us. And as more information is gathered, you never know, in future we could even be able to have infancy vaccination. So as more evidence is gathered, science is informing us in the decisions we take. And it is taken for the overall protection of the entire society.
Maybe I was asking the 1 million, what are you going to schools, or what major are you used to vaccinate?
Multiple-pronged approach is being used, including approaching schools, approaching other social amenities where we can,
especially universities, secondary schools, where we can be able to get a large pool of students who qualify for vaccination. But of course, also those who are able to reach a health facility, if you come with your teenage son or daughter, 16, 17 years old, for vaccination, again, that service will be provided. But Waziri, maybe I can be able to take this opportunity also just to highlight about the yellow fever outbreak in Isiolo. Though no question has come regarding that. Yes, we are dealing with the situation in Isiolo. For us, because as the African continent, 34 counties in Africa are yellow fever prone, and another 14 in Central America and Southern American region. So we have reported so far 3 confirmed cases of yellow fever from 2 sub-counties in Isiolo. We have sent technical teams to be able to support the Isiolo County government in terms of case management, line listing, and
community engagement, and of course in preparation for vaccination. There's a safe vaccine for yellow fever virus, which offers lifelong protection and takes effect after just about 1 month of vaccination. So yes, we are dealing with a situation, but it is under control and there's no need for panic because the epicenter of that outbreak is far-flung with a sparse population. So risk of human-to-human transmission, through mosquito bites, that like happens in urban settings, is unlikely. So it's likely that in the next few days, we'll be able to quash this outbreak. Thank you.
I think the final one. Yes, Angela. I'll take 2 more. Yeah.
My name is Angela Okech. Now, as a country, we are basing our hope on vaccination because we've lifted several measures that we had put in place initially. But then, are you not afraid that lifting the mask issue is going to affect our vaccination uptake? And then considering that now we are putting more emphasis on vaccination, what's our stock? What's our current stock?
Stocks.
Yes, stocks that we have. And what is it that you're going to do to increase the vaccination uptake?
Okay. Yes, Sarah, another one. Final one.
So 2 years is a long time to fight any disease. I mean, we've been fighting HIV longer, but what lessons have you learned as a country in those 2 years, and which of those lessons are we going to keep for the health sector?
Okay, mine is to seek clarification. You have said, I'm Elizabeth Atieno from TV7.
Yes, Elizabeth.
You have said no masks in public places, but people should wear face masks in public transport. If you could clarify on that, kindly.
Correct. First things, let's talk about the vaccination. And first, Angela, is to say that, you cannot keep people wearing masks because you want them to be vaccinated. You keep them wearing masks because you get sick if you don't wear a mask. So vaccination is voluntary, and people must be vaccinated on voluntary basis. We have said that it is a way to save families and a way to protect your own loved ones. However, we cannot vaccinate people by force. What we have said, and we will continue, and by the way, we have more than enough vaccines in our stores. In fact, our challenge at the moment is that we must increase the uptake so that we do not have vaccines expiring in our stores. And the only way to do so is what we have been doing. And I want to take this special opportunity to really thank the media. I want to thank the media in a very personal way, because in spite of the apathy that we observe in some places, the media continues to be in the forefront of risk communication and urging our people to be vaccinated. The radios, the FM radios, the print media, TV, we appreciate what you have been trying to do because we work together in this space. So it is the only way to do it. We will continue in the same space of further. We have also asked the provincial and county administrations, including county governments, to continue in this spirit of urging people to be vaccinated. And there is only so much that you can do, short of marshalling people into centers to vaccinate them. I think Kenyans are educated enough, Kenyans are smart enough to appreciate that this is for their own good, and being vaccinated is a personal responsibility. On the issue of lessons that we have learned, it's a long story, Sarah, and perhaps when we have a whole day, we could talk about the lessons that we have learned. But I think there are a number of things that I can cite top of my head. The first one is that as a government, we must always work from a multi-agency perspective in these kind of situations. It is not the Ministry of Health alone that can conquer these challenges of epidemics. I think that a multi-agency approach, a whole government approach helps a great deal. Because as you remember, there is a question of curfews. The Ministry of Health does not have police to enforce curfews. This is an interior cooperation. There is an issue of closure of bars and restaurants and so on. This is the private sector. It is the community, and they suffer a great deal to adhere to what the Ministry of Health has said. So it is everybody, the interfaith, the religious organizations, the closure of churches and mosques. It's a very painful experience. Yet they do so, if push comes to shove, and if that is the only thing that can save Kenyans' lives. And of course, finally, citizen responsibility. And for me, I have seen an increase in that consciousness of citizen responsibility. That's one. The second one, in terms of more so to do with public health, is just the role of hygiene. What we have picked up as a role of hygiene. Now, there are nations in the world that pride themselves in being extremely clean. Singapore, for example, talks about how clean they are. If you go to Rwanda, just neighboring here, is very, very clean. And now I have begun to see what I consider as clean counties. My visit to Kisumu, for example, last week, showed an extremely improved hygiene standard in Kisumu County. And we have talked a great deal about the introduction of a cleanliness index, county-to-county competition in our country. What we have observed is that just hygiene measures and just being clean should be made a movement such that in a year or two down the road, we can also claim amongst the citizenry, and when we go out there, we can claim that Kenya is indeed a very clean country. This, of course, is going to take the effort of the government, because we must keep our cities clean. And when I say the government, I mean particularly the county governments, because cleanliness is essentially in the county government hands, as well as health officers and public health officers who are in those places. And what we are going to do from the lessons that we have learned, we are going to emphasize a little bit more on measures that perhaps had been relaxed in the past. For example, if you are going to have a meat-eating joint or a restaurant and a place where people are coming to eat, the standards that must be kept in those places must be high. And I mean even the sanitation areas. And I mean, you and I know, it's not, nobody is going to hide facts about Kenya, because they are there in the open. Sometimes you go to those places, you go to a food restaurant, ama pahali pa nyama choma, na unaomba Mungu ukule hiyo nyama na usiende show. Kwa sababu ukienda show, pahali wewe unakula hiyo nyama, ukienda show ile inatumika hapo, story itakuwa ingine. Itakuwa story ingine. Unajitayarisha kabisa, mimi sitaenda kukojoa ama sitaenda show kwa sababu najua pahali naenda iko chafu sana. We cannot continue like that. Hiyo haiwezekani sasa. Kwenda mbele, kama wewe una pahali pako ambao unashomea watu nyama, ni lazima show inakuwa ni safi. Na ni lazima uwe na pahali pa kunawa mikono na njia inayofaa. We must respect the people who are eating in your joint as human beings. You must respect your customers. Ndio unakuwa na usafi ile inafaa yule mtu anakula kwako. So these are some of the measures that we have to emphasize on and make it stiff. We make it clear that there will be stiff penalties for not doing so. Because if you don't do that, then we as a government end up having to pay and buy medicine and put you in a hospital and all those things. So to me, that's some of the most significant lessons that we have learned. And finally is that prevention is always better than cure. If we can prevent diseases from happening, then it is so much cheaper for everybody across board. Prevention is better than cure. And moving forward, the Ministry of Health will emphasize a lot more on prevention and public health or equally to how we have been emphasizing on cure. I think there has been too much emphasis on cure and very little emphasis on prevention. So we are going to treat prevention as an equal part of health management. Ya mwisho kabisa, if I may just add one more, I think somebody had asked about Mondana. Somebody mentioned about Mondana and the production of vaccines in our country. In fact, if I remember correctly, you said something about the fact that Mondana, because of Mondana and the virus, looks like is slowing down. Now remember, vaccines are not just made for one epidemic. Vaccines are made for many, many things and many diseases across our continent. And Africa, the African continent, makes only 1% of the vaccines that we use. 1%. So 99% of the vaccines that we use are manufactured and sold to Africans from outside the continent. That should tell you something. Kenya previously did not have a single human vaccine, manufacturing capacity. So for me, is to say that we are very, very excited about Moderna's decision to manufacture vaccines in our country. Moderna's investment in Kenya is a stamp of confidence in the attractive investment climate in Kenya. But furthermore, more than that, it's a game changer for the pharmaceutical manufacturing sector in the African continent. And not just the manufacturing sector, it's also a game changer in terms of the new technologies that are going to be used to face diseases and treat diseases into the future. And therefore, for Kenya, this is a really, really big deal. And we are very, very excited about it. Thank you very much. Sorry.
Ndo hapo mtazamaji, waziri wa afya pale akitoa masharti fulani kuhusiana na kupambana na gonjwa hili la corona. La msingi sana ni kwamba sasa ile sheria kuvaa barakoa tena haipo. Kwa hivyo mwananchi ana uhuru wa kutembea, si lazima akiwa amevaa barakoa. Sawa mtazamaji, tuendelee kwa haraka. Sasa tuingie katika sehemu yetu ya msamiati kwa sababu ya muda. Kwa kumbukumbu kwa sababu ya muda, na leo hii tunamzungumzia Sir Bobby Charlton ambaye bila shaka ni aliyeponea chupu kwa ule mkasa wa ndege kule Ujerumani wakati walikuwa nasafiri na timu kutoka michuano ya Europa. Kwa haraka labda Silva, unamkumbuka vipi Sir Bobby Charlton, mchezaji huyu ambaye alikuwa amebobea katika nyanja za kimataifa haswa kandanda?
Huyu mchezaji kwa sababu kipindi alipokuwa anacheza miaka ya 50 kule, labda tulikuwa hatujazaliwa na labda uwepo wetu hapa mbinguni hapa duniani haukuwa umetabiriwa, lakini Mungu ndiye aliyejua. Kwa hivyo katika kuangalia tu baada ya kufahamishwa kwamba tungemzungumzia, nimefanya udadisi kidogo na kupata kwamba ni mmoja wa wachezaji ambao klabu ya Manchester United yupo kwenye vitabu vya klabu ya Manchester United ambaye anatajwa kuwa mchezaji bora zaidi. Na kumbuka wakati ule huyu mchezaji alikuwa na bahati kubwa sana vile ulivyotaja kwamba mnamo Februari 6 mwaka 1958 wakati walipokuwa timu ilipokuwa inaelekea kwa mchuano, ndege waliokuwemo ilipata ajali na katika na kwa bahati mbaya wakaaga dunia watu 23.
Ndio.
Na mmoja wachezaji ambao 9 ambao waliokoka katika mkasa huo ni Sir Charlton huyu ambaye tunamzungumzia. Kwa hivyo na kufikia sasa ni miaka 88 au 89, lakini kwa sasa hivi ni mzee sana. Na katika udadisi wangu nimepata kwamba anaugua ugonjwa ambao ni msururu wa magonjwa mbalimbali kwa sababu ya umri wake. Kwa hivyo klabu ya Manchester United tutamkumbuka Sir Charlton kwa kazi ambayo alifanyia klabu hiyo, na ni miongoni mwa watu wa kwanza zaidi kuweza kuiweka klabu ya Manchester United kujulikana duniani.
Ndio. Na akizungumzia Manchester United Ben Bella, ni kwamba mchezaji huyu alishiriki michuano 606 na pia vile vile katika kombe la dunia la mwaka wa 1966. Labda kwa haraka sekunde za kuhesabu, na mkumbuka vipi Charlton?
Namkumbuka kwa mabao ambayo alifunga takriban mabao 249. Na nadhani ni mchezaji kwa hakika, ukitaja Bobby Charlton wakati timu ambazo ni za kutajika ulimwenguni zipo, basi kila mtu atapiga kamsa na kuangalia nani ambaye anamtaja Bobby Charlton.
Naam. Bila shaka, asante sana mtazamaji. Ndio hapo kilicho na mwanzo kawaida huwa hakikosi kikomo, na ndio funga kazi ya michirizi kwa siku hii ya leo. Asante sana Kennedy Nzomo kutoka pale Kakamega, na vile vile Dr. Peter Mabubi, unasema umekuwa nasi kuanzia saa 5. Kazi nzuri. Naam, kwa wale walioshirikisha makala haya, asante sana. Ewe mtazamaji wetu pale nyumbani, umekuwa nasi, zidi kuangalia runinga ya KBC Channel 1 hususan nyakati kama hizi. Naitwa Mohamed Gaddafi, kushoto kwangu kulikuwepo na Ben Omukuba. Asante sana Ben, na vile vile kulia kwangu Francis Silva. Asante pia. Na wewe mtazamaji tena mara nyingine, asante. Tuseme vipi? Kuonana ni majaliwa. Kwaheri kwa muda.
Vile niliingiza mkono hapo, mimi hata sijui ni nini ilifanyika.
Nilisikia TV.
Hiyo ni nini?
Kiwelewele mheshimiwa.
Mimi niliona tu giza. Nikaanguka chini pu. Unatoa kisati hivi. Unapiga nduru ukifanya hivi na hivi.
I don't give a damn. I don't care.
Yaani hauheshimu hii koti.
Mahakama ikiisha mnipatie hiyo dakika kitoko tu nimshughulikie.
Mbona ukumshughulikie hapa?
Siku hiyo nilikuwa alinipata surprise.
Uko yote nje. Nikafika hata mimi kolia na wewe.
Normally when infants cry, they're crying because of distress. But in this scenario, they are moving, but they're making no noise. Remember, there's a certain stage infants reach where they're curious and they put everything inside their mouth. So if you see them having that kind of actions, you suspect they're choking. Face down. Face down. Okay. And you hit just between the shoulders 5 times. Now, the strength of which you use to hit is dependent on the age and the size of the baby. The rule is, the bigger the baby, the harder the hit. So you hit it 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.